Hello, good morning. It's now Thursday, June the 20th, and I've been back from my Dover to Cape Wrath trip a few days now. I've got a lot of my kit sorted out and jobs done at home. I've also had a few days to reflect back on the trip. So there were a few main objectives. Firstly, to get to do an alternative end-to-end from Dover to Cape Wrath. Also to ride that as 7 200-kilometre DIY rides. But there was also a few experiments I wanted to do along the route as well. Primarily the transportation and also doing some on-the-go YouTube updates. So some of what I attempted I succeeded at, others I failed at, so it might be nice to do a wrap-up of what went wrong and also what went right. So the main objective, my alternative end-to-end, Dover to Cape Wrath, I actually succeeded at. I always knew there were a few variables out of my control, such as the ferries going across some rivers and also the ferry going across the Kyle of Durness. At the very end, the last day where I rode from Durness Youth Hostel onto the peninsula of Cape Wrath and then up to the lighthouse and back. That was very determined by whether the ferry would be running, because sometimes it doesn't in extreme weather conditions, and also whether the MOD ranges were going to be open to the public or not. I guess they would be, but there was no guarantee, and as much as I checked before I went, I was not able to confirm 100% either way. So Durness Youth Hostel on the very north coast of Scotland was always my get out of jail free card. I would have still done an end to end, but my objective really was Cape Wrath, so in that I succeeded. However, where I failed was I've put all my DIY files in now to Tony, our local organiser, and I said to Tony I'd failed on some of them, so let me explain why that happened. I think rather naively I thought riding 7 200s would be easier than one 1400, which I'd done several times before. In hindsight, I think it was a little bit over ambitious, and the weather certainly played a role, but I'm not going to blame that or use that as an excuse. It was partly me as well. So the first day there was a diversion soon after I crossed the River Thames on the Gravesend to Tilbury Ferry. Normally navigation's one of my key strengths. I just completely messed up the diversion that day, and that ended up adding on 15 unnecessary miles. So I did get to my Travelodge okay on day one, within the time allowance, but much later than I'd planned to. Day two was actually quite easy. It was sunny, it was flat, I had a tailwind all day. That was fairly straightforward. That was the day between Cambridge Travelodge and Boston Premier Inn. The third day, Boston Premier Inn to Thirsk Premier Inn, was wet, but again I managed that 200 okay. Then the fourth day, between Thirsk Premier Inn and Alnwick, just the wind was horrendously difficult that day, and I knew I was struggling on the time allowance side. I'd originally planned to cycle underneath the River Tyne. There's a cycle and pedestrian tunnel, but that was still shut due to renovations, so I knew there was going to be a shuttle bus service as an alternative to take through the road tunnel, which is barred to cyclists otherwise. As I approached South Shields, I saw there was a ferry, and my instinct just said take the ferry, and probably going to be more frequent than the bus shuttle service, which I did, and I still struggled even then with the headwind to get to Alnwick, my evening destination, within the time allowance. I did it by about 3 minutes. When I looked at the Garmin, I realised by taking the ferry I'd cut off 3 miles of my distance, which meant I was short on the distance required for that day's 200-kilometre ride. So that's the reason I failed on that one. So the following morning, which would be day 5, I woke up to heavy rain, and I basically rode in heavy rain and strong winds all day between Alnwick and Dunfermline Travelodge. Conditions were so bad on the road, I just stayed off the main A1. The route took me on a Sustrans route, which quite often went on gravel tracks. It even went across a few fields. I did consider at one point whether I could make up my time by just reverting to the A1. I looked at the conditions with the spray and the poor visibility and just decided no. If I was going to fail that day on time allowance, I would rather be safer than risk trying to complete a DIY dangerously. It may sound like a cop-out, but again I feel I made the right decision. So I arrived at Dunfermline Travelodge at I think 10 to 11 at night. My cut-off time allowance would have been something like 20 past 9, so I was well out of time that day. Again, in hindsight, I think I made the right decision. So the following day, day 6, from Dunfermline Travelodge to Inverness Youth Hostel was always going to be the longest day. It was well over distance, 230 kilometres, 143 miles I believe. Because of my late arrival at Dunfermline Travelodge, it just meant I was very limited on sleep, and I was up again by 3 AM, on the road by 4 AM. Started off quite well. I thought I was doing quite well for time, and then it actually got sunny during the day, and I thought, hey great, the weather's turning. I was actually in shorts and shirt sleeves quite a bit of the midday until about 2 PM, and then I hit a stretch which used the Sustrans route paralleling the busy A9. I think it was on what was previously the A9, which a lot of the surface had just deteriorated badly, but it was also very exposed to the elements, and there's a really strong headwind to contend with. And at one point I thought, just hop onto the A9, it's dual carriageway, it's probably safe enough, visibility is good, you can claw back some time. It was no easier, and I just considered I'd rather have difficult than potentially dangerous. So again, I just lost a lot of time on that section. Once it did get easier, when I changed direction heading north, then the rain came on and there was a bit of a hill fest, and to cut a long story short, by the time I got to Inverness Youth Hostel, I was out of time and also very tired. When I got there, I just had a quick shower, rang my wife to say, is it okay if we chat in the morning and not now? Went straight to bed to catch up on some sleep. That was the evening where David, a local, had left me some food on the counter. I was so grateful for that in the morning, because when I woke up I realised I'd have had several hours without food otherwise. So the food was very welcome, and also just the gesture just touched me so much. It just really lifted my spirits. So that was another DIY failure. And then the following day, I woke up really refreshed, and I really nourished because I'd had David's food, and also I was able to try some clothes. So I set off on day 7 in quite good spirits, believe it or not. I'd rested, I was well fed, and also had dry clothes because I suspected I might have to start off in damp clothes. The leg to Inverness, I would have probably succeeded on that one, because I was well within the time allowance, and also the conditions weren't too bad actually. Got a bit hilly towards Durness, but to make the distance up to 200 kilometres I actually had to overshoot Durness by 4 miles and come back. And when I got to Durness, I was just in such a sort of happy mood because I was nearing the end of my goal. Just mentally I just couldn't do that extra dog leg. I just so wanted to get in the hostel and just be a tourist. I'd been passing lots of touring cyclists, and I'd begin to sort of wonder, why am I doing this, putting this sort of pressure on myself? So I could have, I hope this doesn't sound conceited, I could have completed my DIY that day quite easily in fact, but I just chose not to. I just switched from Audax mode into touring mode. So, just to recap, of the 7 DIYs, I succeeded on 3 of them and failed on 4 of them. I was perfectly okay with that, looking back. As long as I got to Cape Wrath, that was the major accomplishment for me. But I did learn a lot by failing on those. I do see failure as a positive. If you set your goals too low, you're just going to be succeeding at everything you do, and in effect you fail by default that way. So sometimes it is good to fail, I believe, because it makes you sort of ask questions of yourself. So next up, the YouTube updates. I'm not quite sure where the idea came. I was just messing about with this cheap pay-as-you-go phone I've got one day. I was just trying to make sense of the YouTube app, and I suddenly realised there was a facility there to upload videos, and I just thought, I wonder if I could do some on-the-go videos on my end-to-end ride in June. So during April or May on one of my 400s, I just had a quick go at it, and it seemed to work. So I decided there and then, rather than make a long video of the trip, edit it afterwards, I would do short on the go updates. And I got excuse me, I got a lot of comments on that, and unfortunately the app doesn't really allow you to respond to them, so they meant an awful lot to me. So thank you so much for everybody who said, you know, nice things and encouraged me. Just I was unable to respond on the road, but I generally felt those updates were quite successful. People seem to be enjoying them, and I certainly enjoyed posting them as well, actually. And lastly, the objective was to try out some transport experiments, because I'd looked at the train fares from Bath to Dover and then Inverness back to either Bristol, Temple Meads or Parkway, and they just seemed prohibitively expensive. So I came up with the idea of taking my bike on a National Express coach, and it worked. It was fine, £13 compared to I think £76.50 the train fare to Dover. I was very nervous about that. I did wonder what happens if they don't let you on the coach. You know, you're going to have a lot of egg on your face, because you're going to fail even before you've started. So I did have a contingency. I was going to try 3 coaches, and if I was refused on all 3, I was still then able to walk 50 yards along the road and just get the train anyway to Dover. But as it turned out, I took my bike on the Bath to Victoria coach, no problems. Had 15 minutes wait at Victoria in London, and then I walked straight onto the Victoria to Dover coach. No comment whatsoever about the bike bag, so that worked really well. So the next part of that experiment was getting my bicycle bag, my rucksack, the pipe lagging and the heavy tools up to Inverness, ready for my flight home on the following Monday. So I'd rung Inverness Youth Hostel up and asked them if I could leave a box there for several days, and they were cool about it, said fine. I even sort of said, you're more than welcome to open it if you think I'm doing anything underhand. They said no, it's not a problem, just do put a note on it to say which night you're staying in your name, which I did. So after I got off the coach at Dover on the Friday, I walked about 200 yards to WH Smith, boxed it all up, sent it up to Inverness in a size 5 box, which was £19.95. So I went to Inverness Youth Hostel twice. On the Thursday when I got there really tired, and I noticed the box was there waiting for me, so that was a huge relief. And of course then it was again there for me Sunday evening. And on Monday I just unpacked it all, folded the bike box up. Even the people at the youth hostel took the cardboard from me to recycle. And then I just put the bicycle bag in the backpack, put all the pipe lag in a plastic bag, bungeed it to the haversack, and then I rode to the airport, disassembled my bike, repacked it as I had done for the coach, took it onto EasyJet, left it with them, and then there it was waiting for me when I arrived in Lowellsgate. It came on the luggage conveyor belt. I had originally intended to reassemble my bike and ride back from Lowellsgate Airport, but on a coach trip to Blackpool a couple of months before, I'd noticed there was a shuttle bus service, and I just thought I'll try getting that back, because by the time I get to Lowellsgate I probably just want to get home, and lo and behold I did. I was just longing to see my wife after 11 days away. So I just took the bike bag onto the Lowellsgate to Bath shuttle bus, no questions whatsoever. It was £14, which I thought was pretty good value, actually, considering the hassle it saved me. And lo and behold, the experiment worked, so I felt that was a big success. And it's also given me a lot of ideas for future trips, actually. It seems to have opened the world for me almost, for where I can start going now, avoiding trains. So just to recap, the main objective, the end-to-end, was a success. The 7 DIYs were partial success, 3 out of the 7, so less than 50%, but I'm cool with that, I'm okay. Even though I failed on 4 of them, I still enjoyed them. It was a fantastic experience, but I'm not passing that off as an excuse. I think it was over ambitious, and I failed on 4 of the 7. The experiment with the YouTubing and the transport experiment, I'm really happy with them, and I've got some ideas about pushing those experiments a little bit further in the future. So I've still yet to do my Super Randonneur ride for the year. I still need to do a 600, so there is a couple of longer rides coming up during the summer, so keep watching. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching, and till next time. Oh yeah, here's some outtakes. This is my room. Just be setting off very shortly. Dear Tony, this is why I ran out of time on today's DIY. I'm gonna finish, I'm just gonna finish out of time. Please forgive me, Tony. This road I'm riding today has an alternative to my DIY. It's absolutely stunning. I'm quite happy to fail on the DIY, I really am. As long as I learn something from failure, I feel sort of fulfilled and satisfied. There's a great J.K. Rowling speech, Harvard commencement speech, where she talks about failure, and she says something along the lines, failure at some point in life is almost inevitable unless you set your goals so low and you're so cautious, in which case you fail by default anyway. I think that sums it up really well for me. A thought struck me last night. I was up in this area, Highlands, 16 years ago, and I used to carry a pocket radio on me so I could hear the news and listen to a bit of music in my tent at night. And up here I couldn't get anything, zilch, all I got was static. Whereas yesterday I was posting YouTube videos, and with seconds, anybody in the world with internet access could watch them, and it just made me realise the pace of change is just phenomenal, even in places like this where it sometimes feels invisible. And the J.K. Rowling speech is an example. I mean, once upon a time only the very elites would have got to listen to that, whereas nowadays anybody with an internet connection can just plug into YouTube and listen to that.